Good Wednesday morning, everyone, and welcome to Fox 5 on Fox Local. I'm Alex Whitler, and we appreciate you joining us for our news conversation. We are streaming to you live however you choose to do so. We're on fox5atlanta.com, the free Fox Local app, and even on TikTok. So please don't hesitate to leave a comment in the chat. We're seeing them in real time, and we can help address some of your questions and concerns. We do have a lot of local news that we want to keep you guys up to date on, and we're going to start with some violence that happened over in DeKalb County. We're talking about one person who was shot at a condo complex. So police found a man and a woman critically hurt early Wednesday morning on Oakville Road. Investigators believe the man shot the woman during some sort of domestic incident. Authorities say the man died from an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound. Very serious news to report here. And all the information is still trickling in. So let me tell you what we know so far. Officers were called to the area around 3:45, so the middle of the night, to the Saratoga Lake condominiums in the 3500 block of Oakville Road, and they did already know someone was likely shot. When officers got there, they found a man dead in front of the apartment with what appeared to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Police also found that woman inside suffering from several gunshot wounds. She was taken to the hospital. At last check, she's still with us, just in critical condition. So investigators believe the man shot the woman again during some sort of domestic incident, a dispute, some sort of argument. That's all a very active investigation. We'll be sure to update you as soon as we learn anything else about it. We've got some other very serious news to keep you guys in the know about. This time we're talking about a GBI investigation that started in Powder Springs. They responded to a mental health crisis on New Macklin Road, and authorities say the person ended up showing a weapon during their encounter, and that's why they shot at him. That suspect later died at a hospital, and as is protocol, the GBI is investigating. Now, we're just now getting that person's name. If you've been watching Good Day Atlanta, you probably heard us mentioning this in the later hours. His name is Gustavo Guimaraes. He's 34. He's from Ackworth. And again, he was shot and killed in that incident. No officers, though, were hurt. So if you all know anything about this shooting, you're always encouraged to give police a call. But that's the latest for what we know right now. Now, here's some really big news, especially if you've lived in the Atlanta area for any significant amount of time. The former DeKalb County sheriff who assassinated his successor has died in prison, and we're now hearing from the victim's daughter. She's reflecting on both deaths. So for background here, former Sheriff Sidney Dorsey died behind bars 25 years after his murder conviction. He was serving a life sentence. Dorsey was convicted of ordering a hit on his successor, Sheriff-elect Derwin Brown. And his daughter says her father's murder changed her life forever, as you can imagine. And she now has mixed emotions about Dorsey's death. Let's listen in to what she had to say.
My reaction to Sidney's passing is mixed emotions, a little bit incomplete. Because I wanted to meet with him. I wanted to talk with him. I had questions. So I feel like there's a lot of information, answers that I will probably won't ever get. Well, I won't ever get because he won't be here to answer those.
Yeah, you can imagine what she's feeling right now. Again, the man who was convicted of putting a hit out on her father after he won an election has died in prison. So I do also want to point out here that authorities ended up finding that he was acting out of bitterness. He was upset that he lost a runoff election. Again, that's coming from state officials. So for those of you who've lived in the Atlanta area for 20 years plus, you're probably very familiar with this situation. Let us know if you had already heard about this in the comments. We'd be curious to know what you make of this situation. We are pivoting now, and we're talking about a 7-year-old's murder. Maybe you've heard about this story. Zoey Price was shot and killed earlier this month, and now 2 men have been charged in her death. I want to make sure that I've got the banner up so that those of you who are watching passively or just reading the screen know what I'm talking about here. So let me tell you about the suspects. Preston Smith is 19 years old. Stephen Richardson is about 17. They both face several charges, among them murder, multiple other felonies. We're talking about 2 counts of aggravated assault, 2nd-degree criminal damage to property, 3rd-degree cruelty to children, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. So if you're wondering, what's the backstory? If this is your first time hearing about this, let us know in the chat. I'd be curious to know who's already heard about it and who has not. But for those who haven't, Atlanta police said that there was some sort of argument on February 24th, and that one of the men ended up returning to the home, trying to shoot up the girl's brother's home. And unfortunately, that little girl, just 7 years old, was there at the time. We're talking about this house that you're looking at video of on Tiger Flowers Drive. The mom, by the way, still has bullets lodged in her ribs. So she's dealing with the grief of having lost a child, but she's also trying to recover herself. There's some other news that we want to.
I'm joined here today by APD Chief Darren Shearbaum, Deputy Chief Spann, our COO, FBI partner, Mr. Comer, as well as our council member Amos. We have our Major Baldini and members of the Atlanta Police Department here. We are here to announce that the individuals involved and responsible for the death of 7-year-old Zoey Price are now in custody. The beginning of this process is now taking place, and this will now ultimately allow Zoey's family and community to see justice has been served. Chief Shearbaum will get down to the basics and the details here in a minute. But first, I want to commend Chief Shearbaum and the men and women of the Atlanta Police Department, and with Chief Spann and the team, and working diligently with the FBI and all of our partner agencies at all levels to bring this to this point now. Their work reflects the very best of law enforcement, coordinated, relentless, and focusing on delivering justice for a little girl that should be here. Before we talk about numbers or processes, I want to talk for a minute about Zoey. After the shooting, I was able to speak with Zoey's mother, Cassandra, who was also shot during that incident. And thankfully, she survived and she's recovering. I spoke with Zoey's sister. And the resounding theme from them when I talked to them about Zoey was that she was bright, and that she was, but most importantly, she was compassionate, and she was just a fun kid to be around. Zoey Price was only 7 years old. She was a child full of energy and full of joy. She spent her time in our Atlanta Parks and Recreation Department, cheerleading and basketball, and I was able to see photos of her as she played. She was doing what kids her age do and what they're supposed to be doing, building friendships and growing up, learning about teamwork. Her life was cut short in an act of senseless violence, and that loss is not abstract. It is a chair that is going to be missing at the dinner table each night. It is an empty classroom seat next to her friends that are going to be mourning the loss by her teachers, her classmates, and the rest of the school. They may be having feelings of loss and feelings of confusion early in their lives at this tender young age of 7 and 8 years old. And so there is a family now that will never be the same because Zoey is no longer with us. And as a girl dad myself, I can imagine how this family feels and will carry on. And so these arrests that we are announcing today, they matter. They matter because they are a step forward towards justice for Zoey, her family, and for every parent in this city who expects their child to be safe in their very own home and in their very own neighborhood. So let me be very clear about something here today. Just last year, 2025, the Atlanta Police Department had a 76.76 clearance rate for homicides. 76.76% of the time we have already within that year arrested an individual that was responsible for a shooting. That's one of the highest in the nation and definitely higher than the national average. That is not just a statistic that we recite casually. It represents hours of investigative work, commitment to this craft, partnerships across jurisdictions, and detectives and officers who do not stop until the job is done. So to anyone even thinking about pulling a trigger and killing someone in this city, don't, because you will be arrested and held accountable. If you commit violent crime here in Atlanta, if you dare to take anyone's life, we will find you. APD is very good at what they do, and their partnerships go a long way. And we will work with prosecutors and our partners at the courts and at the state and at the federal level to ensure that you are held fully accountable under the law to its fullest extent. And so today, it is not a celebration. This is indeed a solemn moment. But it is also a reminder that in Atlanta, violence will not be tolerated, and it will not go unanswered. Over the last 4 years, we had a 44% reduction in homicides. And even this year, just the first 2 months of this year, we've already seen almost a 50% reduction from last year in homicides. We are safer, we are continuing to be safe, and youth crime is down. But make no mistake about it, if you commit a crime, if you shoot somebody to kill in this city of Atlanta, that will not go unanswered. We will find you. So don't. And so now I will have Chief Shearbaum to come walk you through the investigative details that have led us to this moment of arrest. Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, CEO, thank you again for being here at police headquarters, for giving us the tools that we need to keep this city safe, and for developing the partnerships that were key in the success that we saw here. I want to again, on behalf of the women and men of the Atlanta Police Department, extend my sympathy to Zoey Price's family for this loss. While today we are going to update Atlantans on the success in this case, it doesn't replace a daughter and a sibling and a niece. And that process will be long, but this police department will be there with them during this journey. It was a week ago tonight that we lost Zoey. It was a week ago today that we made a promise to Zoey Price's family and to Atlanta that we were going to make an arrest and we were going to hold those accountable who brought this tragedy upon the family. And from the time we made that promise, we have not stopped working. In fact, the first arrest warrant was issued on February 26th. Chief Spann will tell you in a moment who that arrest warrant was issued for. On Thursday, 48 hours after the homicide, we had already identified the first individual involved and issued arrest warrants. We were out looking for them, while we were also communicating with the family and that individual's attorney, asking them to turn themselves in, which occurred yesterday. On February 27th, the department continued working. We executed a search warrant at 585 McDaniel Street, where we believed evidence of this crime was likely held, and a second person involved in this shooting was likely at. It was during that search warrant that we were able to develop additional information, and later that day, that individual turned themselves in and were taken into custody. First warrant on Thursday, first physical arrest on Friday. We stood by our promise that we were going to hold you accountable who took the life of a child of the city, and I want to really thank the men and women of the Atlanta Police Department for their hard work. Zone 1 that night tried desperately to save a child's life. That night, our investigators started and did not stop. Our analysts were working around the clock to make sure on Thursday the first arrest warrant was issued, on Friday the first person was in custody, and then yesterday that person was in custody when he turned themselves in. So thank you to the men and women.
You were just listening to Atlanta Police Chief Darren Shearbaum give us an update on the now arrested men who face charges for a 7-year-old's shooting death. I see some of your comments in the chat here on our TikTok Live, our news conversation, and many of you are saying this never should have happened, and I believe everyone can agree on that. That said, if you're interested in any more information about that case, just head to fox5atlanta.com. We do have live updates for you there. We also want to talk about another situation that left some of Georgia's youngest residents dead. You remember the Appalachia High School shooting that left 2 teachers and 2 students dead? Well, their families are now receiving a bit of justice. Yesterday, Colin Gray, the accused Appalachia High School shooter's father, was found guilty on all 29 charges, a long list of them. And that verdict came down almost immediately. It was unanimous. So we do want to bring up an interview with the Barrow County District Attorney Brad Smith, who was taking questions from reporters just yesterday, right after that verdict came down. And for perspective here, because he was found guilty on all 29 counts, Colin Gray could spend 180 years behind bars. Listen in.
What do you recommend for sentencing?
We haven't decided that yet. We're going to talk with the victims' families. I haven't actually spoken to them at all since the verdict came out, so we're going to go talk with them, get them
Yes.
ready. Sentencing will be at a future time when they can all be here and speak to the judge, and we'll discuss it with them and make a decision.
What have the victims' families told you prior to this, like throughout this process? Are there any comments that they've made that sort of stand out in your mind?
I don't think it was a common reaction. They all are reacting to their grief in different ways. They all have different perspectives, and we've listened to all of them and talked with all of them, and I don't think there's any common thing. I've just told them from the beginning that my plan was to prosecute this to the fullest extent of the law, and that's what we've done.
When you spoke to jurors, did they give any sense that they were trying to send a message?
I don't think I got that sense from them. I think they were looking at this case, these facts, and this law, and coming to a decision.
Were you
The
surprised by how
defense
quickly?
actually blamed others in this case, said Dee Martin could have been to blame, said Lisa Butler. What do you say, or the mother should have known something? How do you explain that to viewers who haven't been watching this 2-week trial?
One of the things that came to light during our investigation was that the reason so many lives were saved at Appalachia was because of lessons we learned from prior tragedies. So I am all for looking at these things. What can we have done better? What can we do in the future to make our children safer? But the blame game, these were good people trying to make their best decisions as they could with limited information. The one person that had all the information was the one that didn't act.
Did you ever actually consider charges for Marcy Gray?
Absolutely. We found what she did to be morally reprehensible. We do not believe she's a good mother, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, she did not have custody of Colt. She did not have proximity to Colt. And she was not the one that provided him the firearms.
Can you provide any update on Colt's case and where that stands at this point?
I cannot. The state stands ready to try the case at any time.
What does this verdict mean for the community here in the county?
I hope it starts the healing process. It can't, of course, complete it until we finish the whole trial, both trials. But I hope that they can start moving forward with their healing.
I do want to take a moment to acknowledge some of your comments in the chat, because this is a news conversation, not just me talking at you, but with you. I see that someone has commented and said, these people are old enough to know better. There's another person who says that they think the sentencing was just too heavy. They go on to say he shouldn't be punished that hard for his son's crime. And that is exactly why we have a graphic on the screen that says this guilty verdict sets a new precedent. And we were speaking with some legal experts earlier this morning who said that it could end up being used as a deterrent for school shootings all across the country. That said, I want to read the Barrow County School Board statement that they have released in response to this verdict. It reads, quote, Barrow County district leaders said after the verdict that the community is continuing to heal from the tragic shooting, and they thank those who have guided them through the difficult time. It says our community has endured profound loss, heartache, and challenges since the 2024 tragedy at Appalachia High School. Yet alongside that pain, we have witnessed uplifting acts of kindness, unity, and remarkable strength. As a school system, the county says, we strive to honor and grow from what we experienced and to keep a steady focus on what is best for our students, staff, and families who depend on us. We are thankful, this statement goes on to say, to those in our community, the district attorney's office, first responders, law enforcement, our staff, and so many others who cared for us and helped guide us through difficult times. Together, the Barrow County School District says, we will continue to support one another, heal, and overcome. Again, that is just step one in these victims' families getting justice for the Appalachia High School shooting. Stay with us because we still have a lot of serious news to cover during our news conversation here at 11. We're talking about the soldiers who have been identified in this ongoing conflict in the Middle East. Stay with us. Welcome back to the stream, everyone. Our 24/7 news conversation. This time we are talking about the weather with Fox 5 Storm Team meteorologist Jonathan Stacy, and it sounds like it's going to be nice out there at some point today.
Once we get rid of the clouds, we will be off into the races with the temperatures. We are bringing in the warmth. In fact, we had it for the first couple of days of the month. Took a little break yesterday.
Yeah,
went
we
back down
did.
into the low 60s. But we are back to business in terms of temperatures riding well above average. Here's a look at the big picture on Fox 5. Live by radar, there is a system that is riding across the nation's heartland, and it is going to slowly scoot in our direction over the next 5 days or so. But it's going to take a sweet time moving our way. So in the meantime, we have an open door for all the moisture from the Atlantic and the Gulf to roll in. So an uptick in dew points, and also with high pressure down across Florida. You don't see it there. It's going to work as a heat pump to send some warmer air in our direction. So this is an early taste of not spring, but summer, if you will. Today's high temperatures are going to reach into the 70s or into the 80s in short order. So in terms of precip, there's nothing to worry about. Got clouds out this morning, had some fog, low visibilities to the south of the city, but visibilities are improving as we speak. So 59 degrees at this hour. Some communities have already slid into the 60s, 63 degrees there in Gainesville, 60 Dalton. Go down south, and that's where the temperatures are struggling a bit because the clouds and the fog have been so thick this morning. 56 in Carrollton, 55 in Griffin, but not for long. We'll turn those 50s into 60s and into 70s before the day is done. In fact, by 4 o'clock, we'll look for a temperature around 74 degrees. So here's a look at your high temperatures for today. Around 75 degrees here in the metro area, 70s all over the area. There is no partisan divide between the temperatures, no bias here. Everybody everywhere, mountains, Piedmont, you all get into the 70s. In fact, overnight we're going to drop down into the 50s, so it will be a very mild morning. Temperatures generally should be in the 40s to start the morning. We're going to serve you up some 50s, even some high 50s, 57 degrees in Atlanta. And then this is the setup for us to skyrocket. High temperatures tomorrow will roll into the 80s. I don't think everybody gets there, but everybody's going to have an opportunity or a chance to get there by the time we get into the weekend. Here's the weekend forecast. Temperatures are going to stay elevated, but the rain chances they're going up with an uptick in the humidity and an uptick in the temperature. Basically, you have a summer-like scenario in which you have a lot of buoyancy in the air. The air is ripe to give way to something, and it will likely be scattered thunderstorms during the second half of the day. Once again, you know how it works in the summertime. They don't last long, and it's almost impossible to predict when they're going to start and when they're going to end, and certainly where they're going to pop up. But just be prepared for anything. But keep in mind, if it happens, it does not last for long.
Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. Those summer storms always give me a run for my money because I never have the umbrella when I need it. I have it and then I don't need it.
So
it's one or the other.
Here's the deal. Let me give you some from a weatherman.
Okay.
Let me tell you what you should do with the umbrellas. You need to get you some umbrellas. Don't get a fancy umbrella. You need something that's durable, that's going to last. But oftentimes, summer thunderstorms accompany some pretty strong wind gusts.
So a sturdy one.
Yeah, you need a sturdy one,
Yeah.
but you don't need to spend money on one because they're going to eventually fall apart. So I'm saying get one, maybe the Dollar Tree, Dollar General. You're seeing something here that I don't want you to see. Let's go back to this. Yeah.
Okay.
It showed alert days, and no, that's
not an issue.
No,
yeah.
get on out here.
Forget that. You didn't see it.
So here's the deal. You want something that is sturdy enough, but also if you lose it or if you break it, you're like, okay, whatever, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So go to the Dollar General store, Dollar Tree, Five Below or whatever. Get you an umbrella for your car.
Five Below. What do you know about Five Below?
Oh, we got a thing going on here. This ain't a commercial, but we got a little thing going on. Yeah, it's right across the street from where you live. So get you one of those, put them in the car, get you one for work, get you one for the house, and wherever else you may commonly go, and then it's just there. If someone takes it, if you leave it, it is what it is. Go back and get another one.
Yeah, okay.
I
So I need
get your umbrella
several. I need
supplies
one for
out.
the car, one for the job, one for the house. Yeah,
Yeah.
just several. All
Just
right.
have them spread out all around.
Jonathan, thank you.
See
We
ya.
appreciate it. All right, let's pivot and talk about some serious news. We are keeping our eyes focused on what's happening in the Middle East, this ongoing conflict. Right now, the U.S. is scrambling to evacuate citizens as it expands, and the Pentagon has identified 4 of the U.S. soldiers who were killed. So some of them were parents. That's what makes this so heartbreaking. The soldiers died Sunday when a drone struck a command center in Port Shaiba, Kuwait. It's just one day after the United States and Israel launched their military campaign against Iran. Now, Iran responded with missile and drone attacks targeting Israel and several Gulf Arab nations that host U.S. forces. Those killed are on your screen here. Captain Cody Cork, who's 35, from Winter Haven, Florida. Sergeant First Class Noah Tijenes. If I mispronounce these names, I apologize. That's not where my heart is. You guys let me know if you happen to know how to pronounce some of these. 42 years old from Bellevue, Nebraska. Sergeant First Class Nicole Amore, who's 39, from White Bear Lake, Minnesota. And Sergeant Declan Cody, who's just 20 years old, from Des Moines, Iowa. They were posthumously promoted. He was just posthumously promoted to specialist. The Pentagon did not release the names of the other 2 service members, but as soon as they do, we'll be sure to bring that information to you. Now, all 4 were assigned to the 103rd Sustainment Command, which provides food, fuel, water, ammunition, and transportation support. And unfortunately, the president said the situation will likely intensify or even worsen before it gets any better. And that is why we have a team of reporters all across the country who are working to get more information on this. So the U.S. and Israel are maintaining these relentless attacks on Iran, and the country is really trying to get Americans out of the entire region. So we're bringing in Fox's Rebecca Castor now to keep us updated. Rebecca, I know you're on Capitol Hill listening to the congressional side of this. How's it going?
Yes, Alex. So we are expecting the Senate to take what's called a war powers vote later today. I should note, though, that this is largely going to be a symbolic vote. We are not expecting enough Republicans to join their Democrat colleagues and vote against the president on this resolution. Democrats are pushing for this because they want to try to rein in the Trump administration here. But even if this resolution were to pass and end up on President Trump's desk, he would veto it. So again, this is going to be a symbolic vote that is taken later today, but it will put every lawmaker in Washington on the record for where they stand on this ongoing conflict, and you bet it will be used during the midterms.
morning that the Iranian military has been demolished. They said they were underwater. Israel has said any replacement supreme leader will be destroyed. Is there any word on next steps here?
As far as appointing a new supreme leader or
Correct.
military action?
Sure, let's handle both of them. I know that we wanted to talk about the supreme leader's son. We'll get to that in a moment, but let's talk about military action for now, Rebecca.
Okay, great. We did hear from the Pentagon. They gave their second briefing on this operation this morning. And Secretary Pete Hegseth made clear the U.S. is accelerating this war. He says more bombers and fighter jets are arriving in the region today, and that the U.S. and Israel will soon have complete control of the skies over Iran. Another interesting thing he confirmed was that an American submarine sunk a powerful Iranian warship off the coast of Sri Lanka. This is the first time the U.S. has sunk an enemy warship with a torpedo since World War II. Central Command has video of it online. I'll say it's pretty remarkable. Check it out if you haven't seen it. This is an operation that will go down in the history books, and the Pentagon says it's far from over.
Wow, we're showing some of those images, Rebecca. Let's also talk about the potential successor for the Supreme Leader. I've heard rumblings about his son being a potential front runner. Have you learned anything else about him?
We're hearing that as well. This was largely expected. The Supreme Leader's son, Mojtaba Khamenei, is expected to become the new Supreme Leader. And there were actually reports from Iran this morning that he was already elected. But then we saw the Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister. He was on another U.S. network this morning, and he said that a new leader has not been chosen. So this is just an example of the propaganda we have to sift through here, the mixed messaging. International community is, of course, watching this closely. And Israel has already come out and said whoever is selected as the new Supreme Leader will become an immediate target for elimination. So that could be a reason the Deputy Foreign Minister doesn't want to exactly confirm his appointment quite yet.
Sure. So many developments that are taking place. They're happening quite quickly, too. So, Rebecca, we really appreciate your time. I'm sure you have lots of other questions that you're trying to get answered. So thank you again.
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, let's pivot now and let's talk about Kristi Noem, who is once again being grilled by House Democrats and a House Judiciary Committee. During her Senate testimony yesterday, Noem defended her department's immigration enforcement tactics, and several lawmakers have called for her to resign over her management of immigration. Of course, many of the images that we remember come out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, in which ICE agents killed 2 Americans. So let's see if we can listen in on some of today's judiciary hearing.
Ability to investigate others.
That is not true. In that letter that he sent to the Hill yesterday,
I want to enter into the record for unanimous consent 2 articles that document the fact that the Inspector General says that DHS has systematically obstructed its work. It's a Wall Street Journal article dated March 3rd, yesterday.
Without objection.
And also a Politico article, internal DHS watchdog, Noem, is obstructing our work.
Without objection.
How can the public think that you will
Gentleman's time has expired. You've asked for 2 unanimous consent requests. Without objection, those are into the record. The chair now recognizes the gentleman from Wisconsin, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Secretary Noem, thanks for being here today. Despite the undeniable increase in terrorist threats at the border and in the interior of the United States, Alejandro Mayorkas repeatedly misled this committee and the American people by asserting that aliens entering our country were being properly vetted and screened. When I asked him many times about whether or not the border was secure, his response was, secure did not mean migration had stopped. It simply meant that resources had been deployed, enforcement processes were in place, and legal authorities were being used in a proper way. Completely ridiculous. My question is related to the vetting process, though. Can you just elaborate a little bit on how you had to reform and change that process compared to where we were under Secretary Mayorkas?
Well, if you're talking in specifics to programs under USCIS that were being utilized by the Biden administration to allow access into our country, we have put on pause a hold on green cards and naturalizations from 39 different countries of interest that the president had identified with the State Department. And Operation Allies Welcome has been a huge conversation as well. Those individuals are being re-vetted, and they're being re-vetted by going back and interviewing them. Under the refugee program, every year there's to be an in-person interview conducted in order to keep that status and to see if this individual is working to become a legal permanent resident or not. That was not happening at all. There was no interviews happening. There was no looking at social media and what they were out there putting on the internet as far as thoughts and opinions and how they were being successful assimilating into getting a job, or how their kids were doing in school. Those things, all that vetting is being done, and background information now to make new determinations on individuals, not just that were here under that program, but that came in under the Biden administration, that we know that due diligence on vetting wasn't done.
So there's another small change I hope you can just discuss, and that is former border chief and now with CBP Commissioner Rodney Scott. He testified to our committee in 2023 that an illegal alien was only screened against U.S. criminal databases and not against databases from the alien countries of origin, which makes no sense.
That's
correct. I mean,
correct.
obviously, somebody that didn't live in the States suddenly crosses the border illegally, and the only thing that they had been utilizing was some kind of database, which obviously did not include the individual that illegally crossed. I'm wondering, that must have been something you eliminated almost immediately or changed. I'm just wondering if you could discuss that.
No, we do all that due diligence now, and it's very difficult to get adequate vetting from a country that doesn't have a stable government as well. So when there is that situation and they can't provide you with any information, that individual is not allowed to participate in any of the programs that would allow them to be here on a workman's visa or a student visa or information. If we can't do that vetting ahead of time and know truly who that person is and why they're in the United States, they're not admitted. And one thing I would say is that since I've been secretary, we've signed dozens of security agreements with other countries. With Central and South America, we have to share information to be able to give us their criminal. I've gone there and had them come here so that we could agree to share that information in the future. In the Middle East, incredible partnership on getting access to that. CBP has one of the world's largest databases of information on travelers around the world, and how we cooperate and coordinate with these other countries helps us know when they're coming into our country. And I even negotiated the first extradition out of Honduras to help an angel family here in the United States to prosecute someone who was just convicted the other day of 21 years in prison for murdering Sarah Root. And that's the first time that country had ever extradited anybody for murder to the United States. And so by engaging on these cases, we not only get closure for families and justice for them, but we also do due diligence on who's in this country and what their intentions are when they get here.
And just the final thing I would ask you to comment on. The face-to-face interviews are critical, right?
They are.
And they were not being done under the Biden administration at all.
They were not.
And it can be a brief interaction, but oftentimes it's when they determine whether or not this person is in the States and in a good status. Is that not true?
That is true, and they placed a lot of weight on a letter of recommendation from another agency. So many times some of the other protocols were not checked if they just had a letter of recommendation from someone else in the federal government. We've stopped that, and even if we do get someone who recommends someone as a refugee, we still vet them thoroughly.
Thank you. I yield back, Chairman.
Thank you. I recognize the gentleman from California, Mr. Swalwell.
Secretary, you have referenced many times the families behind you, and I see the families, and I see your pain, and I see your loss. I see those who are still with us but have been hurt and changed. And I'm sorry that this has happened to you. And I see you, I know my colleagues see you, our country sees you, and I thank you for being here today. Secretary, my question for you is, do you see families like Miguel Lopez, who was a neighbor of mine in Livermore, California? Miguel had lived in Livermore for over 30 years. He raised his 3 children in Livermore. His youngest is a senior at a local high school, just finished his football season. Miguel worked at a winery where my wife and I were married almost 10 years ago. Miguel had done everything that was asked of him, went to every immigration proceeding that he was supposed to go to, and in April was put in handcuffs as he was following the orders of the court and going to the proceedings. He was arrested and sent to Mexico over a judge's objection that he not be sent to Mexico and he stay in the United States. Every Sunday night, his wife Rosa and the family have a dinner, and there's an empty chair at the dinner table. Miguel's not there. I went and saw Miguel in Mexico. He doesn't have a job. He's not able to provide. And he said his Spanish isn't even that great because he hasn't been there for 30 years, and it's hard for him to communicate. Do you see the pain of families like Miguel Lopez, someone who did not commit a violent crime but has been separated from his family and is not providing, is not working?
Congressman,
do you see that pain?
Did he have a criminal record?
Did Mr. Lopez have a criminal record? In 1995, he pled to a lesser nonviolent charge. But do you see the pain?
I do see the pain, and I wish people would do things correctly. If they're not in legal status in this country, they can return home. We will pay for them to return home.
Yeah.
I hope he got the $2,600 he could have gotten.
Do you think that makes up for not being with his family?
It helps because we have agreements with these countries where they are helping to facilitate housing.
It was a
and
nonviolent
training,
crime, Secretary.
But then he gets the chance to come back the right way. Now that he's waited until he's been detained and deported, he will never get the chance to come back to the United States.
It was
and
a
so I wish that
nonviolent.
he would have made the right decision and decided to go home to help his family and him to be together. They have choices that they can make to be together, and we're hopeful that they will continue to do that.
The president also, by the way, is a convicted felon, if you want to talk about criminal records. Secretary Noem, did you or your staff fire one of your pilots recently?
No.
No pilot was relieved of their duty?
No.
Not
that I'm aware of.
So the story, and recognizing you're under oath, the story in the Wall Street Journal was incorrect.
That individual was not fired. Do you know how many years it takes to get a military officer to be fired? That story was
he asked to not
inaccurate.
fly the next day?
It was not accurate, and I was surprised that the Wall Street Journal would print that many inaccuracies in one article.
Well, the Wall Street Journal is not a liberal newspaper of record. Well, tell me
I
then.
don't know what it is anymore.
Tell me then, has a single ICE agent or CBP officer been disciplined since you've been Secretary of Homeland Security? As we've seen women dragged through their streets by their hair and thrown into unmarked cars, people chased through the fields and factories where they work, public executions happening in our streets. Has a single ICE agent or CBP officer been disciplined?
Yes, they have.
How many?
You were just listening in on a House Judiciary Committee as they grill Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem. All of this pointing back to this conversation of, will she be impeached? That's the big question. Democrats obviously are pushing that. Others say she's just doing her job as trying to make sure that people are in our country legally. If you are interested in watching more of that, you can do so by downloading the free Fox Local app for your smartphones and TV streaming devices. But we are going to keep this news conversation going because we do have some good news to talk about not too long after this. We're talking about Shaquille O'Neal making dreams come true. So please stick around. Welcome back, everyone, to Fox 5 News Live. I'm Alex Whitler. We are streaming live however you choose to do so. Fox5Atlanta.com, the free Fox local app. We are even live on TikTok. That's what makes this a news conversation. So if any of these stories stand out to you, please don't hesitate to leave us a comment in the chat. Now we're talking about some good news. Glad that we can bring it to you. Shaquille O'Neal constantly does good stuff in McDonough, but now he's making a teenager's dream come true. So I want to bring in Billy Heath, who is monitoring the situation. You and Shaq go way back, Billy. I remember all of the live shots.
Oh, that's right. I think the entire newsroom calls me Vidal Sassoon, thanks to Shaq Claus that I covered with Henry County. They're always doing amazing things down here. But let's talk about today. So a very uplifting morning here in Henry County. The community rallied around Brandon Simmons. And if we could, I'd like to go straight to some video on the screen of Shaq walking up to the house, getting to meet Brandon along with the Henry County Sheriff's Office and all the local support. And a part of that local support, Alex, was Sheriff Scandrett here in Henry County. And I'm going to bring him in right now. Sheriff, if you don't mind, step in. Right there is great. Talk about, Sheriff, what today meant to you to see Brandon and provide him with this lifetime experience.
Well, yet for the grace of God, there go I. I dare us forget what we've been delivered from or the challenges that we've been through. And it's certainly important once we realize that, then once I've strengthened you, as a good proverb says, go back and strengthen your brother. Well, Brandon is one of many that we want to try to continue to encourage and direct. And today he encouraged us. He did some remarkable things by standing up on his own and showing that he's doing the work to get better. But it's important along the way that we can give the basic principles that he needs and support and direction and guidance to keep driving, keep moving, and keep going to the next level of excellence. And he's doing just that.
So we all know Shaq is your chief of community relations. What was it like walking up to that door with Shaq, you guys knocking on the door and just delivering this message to Brandon? He was going to have this experience where he's going to go see the Timberwolves. He's going to get this premium VIP access. And all of this is because, I mean, the community is rallying around him. He's done some amazing things. What was that moment like for you this morning, knocking on that door?
Well, Shaquille, and I know him personally, Shaquille is a giant of a man, and with respect to his heart, they go one and one. He understands the mission, particularly when understanding that the community is as good as we invest in it. And if we continue to do that, we're challenged with the stakes that we live in now, but I guarantee you that we'll become united if we begin to pour back into each other consistently. Shaquille certainly understands that mission.
And then, Sheriff, what's your message for young people like Brandon who have shown that resilience, or maybe those who are new on this journey? What's your message to them of encouragement? Well, to see an example that Brandon has set. Brandon is an incredible young man, well-spoken, extremely driven, and also learn some of the challenging lessons with respect to this, even while driving. Let's make sure we pay attention to everything around us, not only driving for ourselves, but driving for other people that may be at fault at any given time frame. But he is, even in the midst of challenges, Brandon is an incredible human being. And that's the type of thing we want our young people to understand, that you will face challenges. There's 3 levels in your life you're going to go through. Either you're in a storm, just came out, or about to go in. And so he's in the midst of a storm, but you can see him coming out on the back end of that, and that's very, very encouraging to everyone who's watching. Incredibly encouraging, and thank you for that. Now, I did want to share, Shaq, also, you guys had a big group photo, and then you shared some words. Shaq was especially touched to see Brandon walk a few steps this morning inside his home. Alex, I believe we have that reaction from Shaq. If we could play that, and you can hear it from Shaq's own words there this morning at the event.
But I don't cry in public. I'm happy for you.
We in private.
I'm happy for you, and I just want to urge you to continue to listen to your mom and your dad. Make sure you always listen to that beautiful grandmother. I wish my grandmother was still here. She gave me so much knowledge. So you have an army behind you, and we love you, and we support you, and anything we can do, we're just a phone call away.
If that doesn't uplift you, then I don't know what will. Just a very uplifting morning here in Henry County. Thanks so much to Sheriff Scandrett for speaking with us, and we'll have more on this later. Back to you, Alex.
Be able to leave people with some good news. Billy, we appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, you guys, we hope you'll stick around because that's not it for our good news this hour. We've got a little bit more for you to come. Stick around.
All right.
welcome back. If you ever said the news is all negative, let me stand as proof, this next story even, that that's just not true. So let's go ahead and bring in Eli Jordan, who's talking about the Ron Clark Academy that is known for doing impressive things. Eli, it's great to see you.
Hey, Alex, it's great to see you too. And you know what? This is my first time at the Ron Clark Academy, and I was blown away.
Yeah?
I mean, this is, I wish I went to school here. This is a really, really, really cool school. And it's got, you know, it's a middle school that teaches kids from 4th to 8th grade. They got 173 students here and stuff. And you know, this is your basic school, but they really do focus on the arts and culture. And these kids here, these students, they are extremely enthusiastic about learning and participating and engaging, and that's what I witnessed here today as the Broadway, the National Broadway tour of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. They're playing at the Fox Theater from now until March 15th, and they came here, the cast and crew members came here to talk to all the students about what it's like to be on the road, about what it's like to tour and put on so many performances, and you know, learning lines, having understudies, and the kids got to learn a whole lot about what it's like to be you know, to be part of a touring performance group like the Harry Potter and the Cursed Child group here. And I spoke with the 7th grader, Valentina Loden, and this is what she had to say about it all.
Today was so amazing. We got to meet a lot of the cast and the crew from the Harry Potter musical that we watched yesterday. It was so beautiful and so incredible. I know I had so many questions to ask them, and they fully answered them in an incredible way. And yeah, it was a beautiful day.
What all did you guys talk about? Tell me about that.
Yeah, we talked about, you know, their journey to get where they are now, some of the challenges they had to overcome, and just questions that we had about the play.
And did you find out anything new that you did not know about, you know, before?
Yeah, I did not know like the amount of pressure that actually goes on these actors and how, you know, they have to deal with it. I thought that was just such an incredible thing to learn about different people's lives and their journeys.
And of course, the Harry Potter and the Cursed Child is at the Fox Theater now until March 15th. So, you know, go check it out if you want to. And that's what's been going on out here at the Ron Clark Academy. Alex?
We appreciate it, Eli. Thank you. That little girl was so cute. We also appreciate all of your time. For all of you who have been watching, we always appreciate you doing so. Stick around because your News at Noon starts right after this.
DeKalb County police are investigating a domestic shooting that left one man dead and a woman critically injured overnight. We'll have a live report with what we know so far. And Powder Springs police are at the center of a GBI investigation after officers shot a man while responding to a mental health crisis call. We'll tell you what police say led up to that shooting.
And I'm dubbing it the March Meltdown, tracking